Hey guys, Zen here, and for those of you who don't know, Nomad's air jab gadget is receiving a pretty big nerf very soon here. So they're going to be adding a sound for while it's idle. So basically, after Nomad deploys her gadget and it sticks to a surface, it still does have that 1.5 second delay before it's actually armed, but once it is armed, it'll actually make a constant sound until it goes off, or of course the enemy destroys it. Now, the sound is brand new to the game. It is also exclusive to this air jab gadget, but if I had to compare it to anything, I'd say it sounds more like a maestro cam while it's idle, that sort of low hum. Now, the reason that I wanted to make this video, and please forgive me for my honesty, but I wholeheartedly disagree with this nerf, and there are also some other big nerfs and changes that I wanted to discuss in this video, so let's get started. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss is the category of trap operators. You have Frost, Capkin, Ella, Legion, and of course Nomad, all of which have trap gadgets that are used to set up and disorient or alert the opposing team of a general direction that they may be pushing from. With this change, Nomad's gadget will be the only trap that has some sort of sound emitting from it, and that's the part that really confuses me. As a trap, you want it to be stealthy and not easily dealt with, that way it surprises whoever it comes into contact with. That's the whole element of surprise, and that's what really makes traps effective. I can't tell you how many times a goo mine or an Ella Gersmont mine has led to my team taking home a round win, whether that was because it alerted us of their general position or if someone just happened to be one shot and stepped on a goo mine. And of course this happens all the time with frost mats. If someone is the last person up and they happen to hop through a window and there's a frost mat there, well, your team is taking home that win. Now imagine if any of those gadgets made a sound, particularly in those 1v1, 1v2 kinds of situations where traps are really your last line of defense. And so imagine if they made a sound. Those situations would have probably went completely different. And of course, that is now Nomad's reality. Now, general feedback from the community would ask, well, Zen, what about the fact that this gadget leaves you completely defenseless for a few seconds? Unlike those other traps, they don't leave you defenseless and you can fight back. And that is true. By design, the air jab leaves you completely vulnerable for a few seconds. But I think the only reasonable response is that the air jab can never really kill you. Yes, there are some really creative things that can be done with a claymore, but otherwise it won't kill you. You'll still need to be shot at to be killed, which I think is a logical balance to this gadget. Can you really control if you're one shot and step on a goo mine? If you're not last up, it'll down you and leave you completely vulnerable. If you are the last one standing, it'll kill you. In neither of those situations do you end up dead with an air jab, and I think that's a really important balance to recognize. Back in the early days of Siege, Capkin used to have a red laser that would shoot out from his EDD. It was very easily visible and made it pretty obvious where the EDD was being set up. Now though, he doesn't, and it's made his gadget tenfold so much better, and I really feel like this sound coming from the air jab is that new red laser to Nomad. If you're a Vigil or a Caveira and you're already playing really silently, it's going to be really obvious where this thing is because of that sound. If you're rounding a corner and you hear it, it'll give you the opportunity to either deal with it by getting an angle on it or using an impact grenade, or of course find another way around it. Now, this isn't Nomad's first time being nerfed. She's been nerfed a few times in the past, actually. The first was when she lost the proximity effect on the air jab gadget. Back when she was first released, she had the ability to shoot an air jab into a room, and if an enemy was anywhere within the proximity while it was flying through the air, it would go off and send them flying, which was just clearly overpowered and was definitely a change that was needed. The second nerf actually came to both her and Kaid, and it increased the recoil for the .44 mag. But this is the biggest nerf to this operator in my opinion, and one that I think will have the biggest effect on the meta. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is actually the other Moroccan operator, Kaid, and his Electroclaw gadget. I think right now there's only one word to describe exactly where Kaid is in the meta right now, and that is underwhelming. A lot of people in the community feel as though he's weak and could use a buff. Now, before release, he lost his third Electroclaw, and I feel the best way to make him more viable is to give that third Electroclaw claw back. In comparison to Bandit and Mute, Kaid has lackluster weapons, and I think that's what separates these operators and really balances them out. Now, in comparison to Nomad, she also has pretty underwhelming weapons, which is a part of this operator that helps balance out her great gadget. Neither the AK or the ARX are standout weapons, and I don't think the community would consider them overpowered in any way. Now, what's important about this is that Nomad as a complete operator really isn't that strong, and honestly, in her current state, I feel is balanced. Another aspect specific to this gadget is that while she's deploying it, she has an infinite range yellow laser that beams out from her weapon. It's actually worse than Kapkan's old lasers and makes it almost useless to try and fire an air jab into an objective. Now, this nerf to Nomad reminds me a lot of what happened with IQ and also Doc and Rook. For those of you who don't know, IQ used to have frag grenades and she lost them because she had too much utility. Now, in the upper ranks, a lot of people understood this because IQ is picked a lot at the higher ranks, and of course in the Pro League, she offers a ton of utility and unique intel in those ranks, but in the lower ranks, IQ is considered really weak, and even to this day, especially after losing those frags, she's considered really weak and really underpicked in those lower ranks. Her guns have always been really good, and I think a lot of people enjoy using her for that reason, and of course she is a 3-speed, but it was really those frags that tied it all together for her, and after losing them, a lot of people have just opted to stop picking her. Now, as far as Doc and Rook, they actually recently received a nerf. So their main SMG, the MP5, lost 3 points of damage, and this was another nerf that came out of nowhere, and a lot of people, myself included, were confused by it. Now, overall, as far as its effectiveness against both of these operators, I don't think it's made a huge splash on them. I think Doc and Rook are still being picked constantly round after round, and it's for good reason. They're very powerful, very good operators, especially if you're looking to anchor on site, but it definitely has made a noticeable change, especially in those 1v2, 1v3 situations with these operators, and it's a lot more challenging dealing with more than one enemy, especially on site. The last thing that I wanted to discuss here are some of the benefits to this change to Nomad. There are those that feel as though this was 100% necessary and probably how she should have launched from the beginning, and of course I want to acknowledge that perspective. So in the live game, the air jab is 100% silent after it's been deployed. It can be deployed basically anywhere, stick to almost any surface, it has a very wide range of detonation, and because it's silent, the enemy defenders have no idea where it is. Now that it's going to emit this sound though, they're going to be able to hear it and hopefully avoid coming into contact with it. There's also the fact that now you'll kind of be able to map out where a Nomad has pushed from, or at least where she's been based on that sound. So if you were roaming around the map and you happen to step on a goo mine, well, you know that a Legion has been over there at some point and has probably set up some sort of trap for you. You should probably avoid that area at all costs. If a Nomad decides to enter a map early on and set up an air jab to watch her back, as a roamer, it'll make it very easy for you to kind of know where she came from and predict where she's headed based on the flanking routes that she's trying to watch. And the last real benefit is probably the most obvious, but it's the fact that you're given any intel at all about the gadget's whereabouts. In a perfect scenario for Nomad, she's already pushed the objective, the plant has gone down, and she set up all 3 air jabs at every single entryway that a roamer or someone that's trying to come and defuse the bomb would come from. That player comes through one of those doorways, gets flung back by an air jab, and is obviously cleaned up by Nomad or one of her teammates. That is the perfect scenario for this operator and where all of her utility is used best. It causes checkmate. Now, it's that checkmate that I believe is the frustration and is the community's issue with the air jab in its current state. She leaves you with almost no option, and she leaves you basically helpless against fixing or saving the day. Outside of killing all of the attackers and dealing with all of the air jabs, she leaves you at that checkmate. There's almost nothing you can do. You don't know where this air jab is. You do know that a plant has gone down and you must deal with that, or that they're securing the objective in secure area and you have to get back on site, and Nomad simply does not allow you to do that in her current state. So to wrap this video up, I think that this change to Nomad is definitely going to affect her pick rate and her effectiveness within the meta. I honestly believe that it's going to have the exact opposite effect that the Kapkan change had on that operator, where this is going to not make the air jab completely ineffective and completely useless, but it's definitely not going to inspire a ton of confidence like it currently does now. And I hope it doesn't lead to another middle of the road operator and a gadget that's just not exciting to use. So more than anything, guys, I struggle to make sense of this nerf. nerf. Trust me, I'm aware that Ubisoft has the data and maybe there's something there that proves the air jab needs this kind of adjustment, but again, when I look at Nomad as a complete operator, I don't feel she's too strong, and I think it's the air jab with its stealth that makes her viable today. Again, no other trap in the game makes any kind of noise, and the fact that Nomad's now does, it kind of defeats the purpose. It feels like we're going from a gadget that was effective at giving both valuable intel and could lead to kills to more of a warning sign to roaming defenders. But that's everything, guys. Nomad's air jab has been nerfed, and those are my honest opinions about it. But how do you feel about this change to Nomad? Has this been something that's needed to happen, or has Ubisoft gone a little too far? Leave it all in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this video, please drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen. Hey, I'm out.